So what do we know so far about how these particles are moving through the food web? And what does that mean for the organisms at the top of the food chain, including us? Microplastics have now been found in the cells and DNA of phytoplankton, the microscopic plants that form the base of the ocean's food web. Not surprisingly, given their small size and the fact that they spend their entire lives in the water column, it's easy for these particles to be ingested by mistake. What's more concerning is that these particles don't break down in the cells of these organisms, but can build up over time. This is a process called bioaccumulation. Now, this doesn't just happen to phytoplankton. Subsequent studies have shown that zooplankton, which feed on phytoplankton, also accumulate plastics when they eat enough phytoplankton. And if that zooplankton happens to be a copepod, a tiny crustacean that many fish species rely on, then those fish will also accumulate plastic. In a study published in 2023, researchers analyzed mussel samples from 6 fish species along a beach in France. They found plastic particles in every single one. This pattern continues up the food chain. A study published in 2022 found that seabirds in the United Kingdom had plastic in their guts too. Even before we consider what microplastics might be doing to animals once they get inside them, this accumulation up the food chain is bad news. It means that animals at higher trophic levels, including humans, will continue to be exposed to these particles because they eat lots of smaller animals, which in turn have eaten lots of plastic-filled prey. Animals aren't supposed to eat plastic, which means they won't get any nutritional benefit from eating contaminated prey. And it could fill them up so they eat less real food. These animals may even starve as a result. Plastics can also leach chemicals into the tissues of organisms, and some of those chemicals are toxic. That means an animal that eats a lot of plastic-filled prey could end up with Bose toxins in their body. We already know that some chemicals like BPA and phthalates disrupt hormones in ways that can impact reproduction. And ecotoxicological research suggests that microplastics may have similar effects. Research published in 2023 found that male rainbow trout exposed to microplastics produced less testosterone and had lower sperm counts. That same year, another study showed that exposing fathead minnows to plastic particles led to feminization in some of the males. But the extent to which plastics affect animals doesn't stop there. Plastics can also cause physical damage. In 2021, researchers found that mice exposed to plastics via their drinking water developed inflammation and tumors in their livers. Given the widespread occurrence of microplastics in marine organisms, it is not surprising that a study published in 2022 found that they can cause changes in gene expression. And finally, adding insult to injury, plastics can also make organisms more vulnerable to other environmental stressors like temperature changes or oxygen depletion. Basically, there's a lot to worry about here, but it's not all doom and gloom. We can take action to reduce plastic pollution. So let us talk about what can be done to prevent these particles from getting into the ocean in the first place. The vast majority of microplastics in the ocean come from the breakdown of larger plastic items that were disposed of improperly. When discarded plastics are exposed to sunlight and wind, they degrade into particles smaller than a sesame seed called microplastics. But the problem doesn't start there. Once in the ocean, synthetic textiles like polyester and nylon continuously shed fibers during washing. And while these materials are designed to last a long time, over 90% of these fibers end up in landfills or the ocean within just a few years. Once these particles are out in the environment, they're extremely hard to clean up. The only way to keep them out of the food web is to keep them out of the water to begin with. But to do that, we need to tackle the sources of plastic pollution at their roots. Reducing our consumption of single-use plastics is key. While plastic keeps our food fresh and our electronics small and lightweight, it comes at a cost. An estimated 400 million tons of plastic is produced each year, and much of it ends up in landfills, where it takes hundreds of years to break down. Even worse, incinerating plastic releases dangerous chemicals into the air. Incinerating plastic produces dioxins, polychlorinated biphenyls, and particulate matter, which contributes to respiratory diseases. Globally, plastic production has quadrupled since 1970 and is expected to triple again by 2060 if current trends continue. If we want to protect both the planet and ourselves, we need to slow down. Luckily, there are alternatives to conventional plastic. While some materials like glass and metal are more expensive and heavier, others like biodegradable plastics made from cornstarch are already available. Bioplastics break down in months instead of centuries, though it's important to remember that not all bioplastics are created equal. Some degrade quickly in industrial composting facilities, but still take decades to break down in the environment. So it's crucial to ensure that any bioplastic is truly compostable or biodegradable under real-world conditions. On top of reducing our use of plastics, we need to be smarter about disposing of the stuff we use today. Unfortunately, most curbside recycling programs don't accept plastic waste, especially single-use plastics. As a result, a lot of it ends up in landfills. That's why it's so important to properly dispose of hazardous e-waste like computers and cell phones. These devices contain valuable metals like gold and silver, but they also contain lead, mercury, and other toxic substances that shouldn't go in the garbage. If you live in the US, check with your local municipality to see if they offer e-waste recycling days or drop-off locations. You can also look up whether your state has a collection program for other hazardous household waste like cleaning products, pesticides, and batteries. Meanwhile, textile recycling isn't very common either. Clothing made from natural fibers like cotton and linen can often be composted, but clothing made from synthetic fibers usually can't. Although recycling technologies are being developed, for now, most end up in landfills. That means we need to change our relationship with clothing, embracing the mantra of reduce, reuse, recycle. If we all buy less clothing, reuse what we already have, and recycle what we don't need anymore, we can drastically reduce the amount of clothing that goes to waste. We've seen that microfiber pollution starts with the clothing we wear. So it's fitting that one of the best ways to reduce microfiber pollution starts with the clothes on your back. Natural fabrics like cotton, hemp, and bamboo are made from cellulose, which breaks down over time. Meanwhile, man-made fabrics like polyester, rayon, and spandex are made from petroleum, a fossil fuel that won't break down for centuries. That means synthetic fabrics release microplastics into wastewater whenever they're washed. But not all synthetic fabrics are the same. For example, nylon releases fewer fibers during washing than polyester, so choosing the right fabric can make a difference. But no matter what fabric you choose, washing it on a cold cycle with a gentle detergent and no fabric softener will help reduce the number of microplastics released into the water. You can also buy special washing machines equipped with filters that remove microfibers from the water before it goes into the drain. And when it comes to buying new clothes, remember that the more you buy, the more you'll contribute to microfiber pollution. So resist the temptation of fast fashion. Look for durable, high-quality pieces made from natural fabrics that you'll keep in your closet for years to come. But what should you do with those synthetic clothes that you simply can't bring yourself to throw away? Well, one option is to cut them up and use them around the house. A 2022 study found that polyester felt effectively removed oil spills when used as a sorbent material. Other research suggests that polyester can also absorb heavy metals from polluted water. In other words, you can repurpose your old synthetic clothing to clean up other types of plastic pollution. Just be sure to wash them thoroughly before using them for this purpose. While scientists continue to learn more about the harmful effects of microplastics, the situation doesn't look good. But hopefully this video gives you hope that we can still go down a different path. We need to start at the source and reduce our consumption of plastics. Then we need to properly dispose of the plastic waste we produce now. Finally, we need to find ways to reuse and repurpose plastic instead of letting it pollute our waterways and poison our planet. If we all do our part, we can reduce the number of particles in the food web and protect the health of all organisms, including ourselves. Thanks for watching this episode of Sea Show, and thanks especially to our supporters who make episodes like this possible. Your support helps us explain big topics and make science understandable and exciting for everyone. You can learn more about how to get involved by visiting our website,